Hey guys, Double here, and welcome to a new Double's Opinions on, well, as you can see from the title, if there will be a new type introduced in Pokemon X and Y. So, what I'm gonna go through is the science of it, not really my opinion on it 100%. I'm also gonna have a few quotes from a few different people that will back up my arguments. So, what you're looking at right now is basically a chart that was taken from Bulbapedia. All of this is in credit to them. That basically tells you how many Pokemon are in each type and what the percentage would be. Like, as you can see, Dark has 39, and that's 6.01% of all Pokemon will be Dark type. Okay, so that's how that works. Now, if you look at this in order, the least is Ghost with 27, Dragon with 29, Ice with 31, and then Steel with 38. I'm going to go over why this is important. Look at how Hidden Power currently works. Basically, to get the type, it takes one of your IVs, or some of your IVs into account. Actually, I think it takes all. I'm not sure 100%. I will put Bulbapedia's explanation, however, in the description of how Hidden Power calculates the type. But basically every single possible combination that can be used is being used. What that means is if there was a new type introduced, the Hidden Powers would either they'd have to change the IV system or they'd have to mess around the Hidden Powers, which would mean, say, you bred, I don't know, I don't pay attention to competitive, say an Abomasnow with Hidden Power Fire. I don't think that's a very common thing, but say it is a super common thing. But and it's still like the best in whatever tier it's in. And in X and Y, for some reason, Abomasnow gets some move that ends up putting it to OU, say, and it still requires Hidden Power Fire. Now, say the new Ivy set that your Abomasnow currently has is Hidden Power Ice with like a super crappy power. It would suck now. There'd be no point in transferring it. The only point of transferring Pokemon would be just in case you're like me and have a certain collection of Pokemon, all the starters, all the legendaries, and a few others that you really, really like, and you transfer those to every game. There'd be no point in transferring any EV trained Pokemon. Most of them would get messed up if they introduced a new type. And the last thing that's just for any type, basically, and this is why I took the percents into account, how badly it would be. There's 27 ghost types, okay? That's the least amount. That would mean, to get more than Ghost, this new type would need at least 27 Pokemon introduced this generation. Now, I didn't go through counting and I can't find anywhere, but I'm pretty sure Water and Normal are the only generations that consistently do that. So that would mean it would need to be a super common type, at least in this generation. Most of the things people are suggesting wouldn't be something super common. And you might be thinking, okay, that just means there won't be very many Pokemon. Well, there's going to be Ghost types introduced, there's going to be Dragon types introduced, there's going to be Ice and Steel types introduced in this generation. That means those types are going up. Say there's 5, no, let's say 3 just to make it 30. Say there's 3 Ghost types introduced, 1 evolutionary family, I guess. That would mean that now, say, Nymph type is introduced. Nymph type would need 30 Pokemon to be able to catch up. Or say it's Nymph/Fairy type. And then you can argue that it's fairy type, so you can put Clefairy in it. But what would happen to Victini? Victini's a fairy. Are we going to change its type, make Pokemon have 3 types? That part doesn't make sense. So, yes, you can get some Pokemon like that, but unless you want... I have a feeling if they did introduce a new type, it would be a happy medium like Poison or Fighting that doesn't have a super amount of Pokemon but doesn't have a tiny amount, which would mean they'd need a shit ton introduced in this generation. Now, one last thing before I go to the specifics of why Light type can't be introduced. It comes from a friend of mine named TomBerry115. Basically, what he's saying is that really it's balanced. The reason that Dark and Steel were introduced in Generation 2 was to balance the Psychic type. The Psychic type, as well as technically Dragon, however, since Dragon types weren't super common, was super unbalanced. Pretty much you had an Alakazam on your team, you weren't going to be losing anytime soon. They were weak to Bug, and that's it in Generation 2. You can look it up. They are not weak to Ghost in Generation 1. You can look that up all you want. It's a fact. There was only Pin Missile for an attacking Bug move. Now, yes, they could have just introduced Bug moves, which they did introduce a few Bug moves. However, that obviously wouldn't have worked, or they would have just kept it. So they introduced 2 types. One is immune to Psychic, and one is resistant against Psychic. One's even super effective, Dark, and changed around the balancing. Why would they need to do that now? They don't just introduce stuff to appease to fans. He also brings up the fact that it would need to be weak to types that aren't super effective against very many things. So that could be like Steel. It's only super effective against Rock and Ice. Fighting. Ice Normal and Steel. Ice Normal Steel Dark. It would have to be something like those. And it would have to be, how do I put this? Resistant, I guess, to types that are super effective against a lot. So, you need to think of something that's logical. I mean, it's pretty logical for water to be weak to grass. The grass absorbs the water. It's pretty logical for fire to be good against grass. The fire burns the grass. It's pretty logical for fire to be super effective on ice. The fire melts the ice. Most of these are logical. Fighting on ice. The, I guess punches and stuff breaks the ice. That's kind of obvious. So it would need to be something that works like that. And the name, its moves... Moves are another thing. They'd have to introduce a lot of moves unless the Pokemon they do introduce don't have very many stab options. Now I'm going on to Light type itself. The main reason, and excuse my pronunciation, that this is a big thing all of a sudden is because they're being so quiet with Sylveon's type. So, that means nothing. Reshiram and Zekrom. Last generation, they were super quiet about the type, and guess what? It was pretty well accepted up until it was accidentally leaked that Zekrom was electric type, that Zekrom would be dark type, and Reshiram would be light type. Just because of their appearances, which is what we're basing Sylveon on, and the secrecy of their type, which again, what we're basing Sylveon on. Another thing people are using to back up their point on why we need Light type is apparently because the Dark Psychic, or Dark needs a Light. It needs an opposite. Something strong against it. However, it's not necessary. Because, let's take Dark's Japanese type. Or name, evil type. Dark is not meant, therefore, as the absence of light. Dark is meant as evil or naughty, things along that line. Meaning, yes, good, or we'd need a good type, I guess, which could here be light type. But let's look at this group of 3 that is seemingly popular with the second type of starters being super effective: Dark, Psychic, and Fighting. You know, if Chespin's Dark Grass, and Fennekin is Fire Psychic, and Froakie is Water Fighting at their final forms, they're all weak against one and super effective against one type of the other Pokemon. So no one really has an advantage or disadvantage in that. So let's look at the basic principles of why these 3 could be another trio of types, because as far as my research can go, or went, the only 3 types that do that are Grass, Water, and Fire, besides these 3. So why? Why would these 3 possibly need to do that? Now keep in mind, this is all a guess. I read this somewhere, however, I was an idiot and did not bookmark the article, so I cannot give credit. If anyone can find that article, please give it to me and I'll annotate and put it in the description. But basically, we've already went over that Dark means evil. Psychic most likely means brainy or like the mind. And Fighting, now this is the part, I'm not 100% sure if this part can be trusted. I am going by someone who is pretty well accepted. I didn't see anyone fight with it. Fighting has, in Japanese, is a word that, like, isn't a direct translation, if I can put it. There's a word that means, like, to fight, to brawl, to, succeed, I think was the other thing. There are, like, 4 things right there. So what this could be is Psychic is super effective against Fighting because brain over brawn. Evil is super effective against Psychic because the Joker constantly tricks Batman. You know, Batman usually gets back, but it's like a sucker punch, which is a Dark type move. And then Fighting saves the day. Brawn saves it from the evilness. That would mean that we have Light type. It's called Fighting, though. Or Good. So, we already have the Light type. We don't need a Light type. In fact, I think if we had a Light type, it would ruin that trio there, which, besides Grass, Fire, Water, is the only thing that does that. I've looked through that. I can't find any others. I mean, technically, I guess there's Poison, Ground, and Grass, but I wasn't gonna count ones that are already part of another trio. So if you can, like, think of some other one, go ahead. So that's why I don't think there will be another type. And I tried using as much science-y coding, the way the games work. And basically, I think if they introduced a new type, we'd either have the Generation 2 to 3 problem is your Pokemon are stuck in 2 and can't go to 3 because the IV system changed. Or there'd be the, why would you want to transfer them? They suck ass in Generation 6, just breed a new one.